Hey everybody, News Now Wyoming here. Let's zoom in some. So for today, first, I am making a small celebration. 100 subscribers as of the other day. As of right now, it's 103. Thank you guys. I appreciate you joining and wanting to be part of what this channel is all about. Again, thank you. Now, let's get right into this video here. Today, we drafted up a mock House resolution, 6969. And this is all about qualified immunity and absolute immunity. So remember, qualified immunity is what most government officials will get if they are law enforcement, if they are investigating and they violate somebody's rights. So police get qualified immunity unless they fall under certain special rules, right? The Supreme Court just ruled for it out of willy-nilly. They just created it out of nothing. Absolute immunity, and I've done a video on absolute immunity, the difference between the two. So look back. I still can't figure out the whole tagging thing above, so don't look above because it's not going to be there. But absolute immunity is what prosecutors and judges, politicians receive, is absolute immunity. That means no matter what they do, if it violates your rights, you cannot sue them. Period. There are no, let's consider these factors. No, if they are acting in their official capacity for their position, complete immunity no matter what they do. They can frame you. They can they can make up documents. If it's a civil suit and the other side bribes a judge, you cannot sue him for damages. Okay, but again, I've done another video on that, so I don't want to spend too much time explaining what absolute and qualified immunity are. I do have a lot of videos talking about that. So today we are going to talk about House Resolution 6969. Please take this, send it off to your congressman, say, I want this to be passed immediately. Don't add all your stupid amendments. Just pass it the way it is. So here we go. Whereas qualified immunity is doctrine created by the judicial branch without input from the legislative branch, and whereas qualified immunity has been granted to government officials who have committed acts depriving the public of their constitutional rights, and whereas absolute immunity is doctrine created by the judicial branch without input from the legislative branch, and whereas absolute immunity is granted to government officials who have committed acts depriving the public of their constitutional rights, no matter how egregious. Doesn't matter how bad that they acted, they've got immunity. Screw you, judges. So 42 U.S.C. 1983 is amended as follows. Any government official who deprives a member of the public of their constitutional rights as set out in this statute is not granted any immunity in federal courts. I specify federal courts because there are some states that have granted immunity, and it would be I don't know if the federal legislatures would be able to say your courts in your state for cases involving your citizens that don't involve the federal government have to follow these rules. In like Texas, cops are immune from lawsuits in state court or with state procedures and stuff like that. So again, I am more for states' rights than I am for federal rights, so I typically will err on that side, and that is why I specify here federal courts, not state courts. Okay, number 2. The sole factor to determine at a motion to dismiss is whether or not a constitutional right was violated. All statements are to be taken in the light most favorable to the non-moving party. And that's standard practice anyway in a motion to dismiss. The judges have to examine the case in the light most favorable to the non-moving party, which typically means the plaintiff, because it's the defendant asking for the case to be dismissed. So the defendant is the moving party, and the plaintiff is the non-moving party. So this is standard practice anyway, where they take anything that the plaintiff says at face value, and at face value, does that violate their rights? If it does, well, they don't get immunity. No government official should get immunity if they violate your rights. Period. I don't care who they are. I don't care what position they are. And if anybody says, well, you take this away and we won't have so many cops. If they are so worried about violating our rights, they shouldn't be a cop anyway. They're so worried about violating our rights by taking a bribe or anything, they shouldn't be a judge. This should be a no-brainer. I want it to turn away people that will otherwise do these things. Alright, number 2, the sole factor to determine... Oh, wait, we already read number 2, I apologize. Number 3, any finding of reasonableness of violations of constitutional rights is to be determined at trial by a finder of fact, either by a judge or by jury. So this means that a motion to dismiss, we are not going to consider if the cop's actions were reasonable. We are not going to consider anything else except, well, obviously there's going to be other things, jurisdiction, stuff like that. But we aren't going to find any reasonableness of the violation to be something that they can just dismiss willy-nilly. It has to be found at trial by a finder of fact. So, there we go. What else? That thing is definitely open for me to add things to it. What would you like to see added to this? Or do you think my 3 sentences here are good? Now, do note that 1983 is actually a paragraph about that long. There's novels of case law about it, but the paragraph itself is just this big. So adding 3 sentences to it, I felt was proper. If there's something else that you think this should have in it, please let me know. Make sure you hit that like, subscribe on YouTube. I certainly appreciate it. And once again, you guys, 100 subscribers. You have no idea how excited I was the other day when I read that, and I feel that I've just been really busy with being snowed in that I haven't been able to record a video. Well, being snowed in and then helping neighbors dig themselves out. So, part of living in the country. Alright, you guys, have a great night. Thank you for joining.